So on to the launch of 3%.
Yeah.
So you said back in 2012 that it was about two lives colliding.
Yeah.
That really led to that. And I certainly want to hear that. But first, I just want to say that I was there, as you know, for the first one, and I will never, ever, ever forget the electricity in that room. It was truly amazing. And Cindy Gallup introduced you then, as she has done every year since. And she said, we're here today because Kat Gordon decided to do something that no other institution in our industry has done, even the ones that are meant to be guardians and champions and challengers of creativity. It was really a great tribute to you.
Yeah.
So tell me more about those two lives colliding.
So, I've been talking to you about running Maternal Instinct, and a big part of servicing clients that were targeting women and moms was being an expert in that space. So I spent a lot of time, I wrote a blog, I would do speaking engagements about it, I read a lot about research about all of the key indicators that we care about related to consumers, who's buying what, and wealth amassment and tech adoption, and everything was tilting towards women. Everything. It's shocking how much wealth women control and how much consumer power they had. And yet I kept looking back at, every time I'd open Ad Age or even look on LinkedIn, it felt like all of the creative directors were still men and white men. And I also was aware of just how multicultural and multi-ethnic America is becoming, and it's exciting. These changes are real and they're happening fast, and the ad world just seemed so unbelievably stubborn to evolve. And so I'd had this experience at Hal Riney that I didn't ever really talk about, and I'd kind of filed it. I don't know if you've ever had a life experience that doesn't make sense to you, and it's almost like it's in a folder in your brain that's still open, it's not resolved. And so when I worked at Hal Riney, the agency was invited to pitch the Saab car account, and we had the Saturn car account, which I worked on. So the agency had a great reputation of car expertise. So they get invited to pitch the Saab car account, and the pitch team is, in this frenzy of activity getting ready, and it's all men and one woman. And actually the one woman works in this building. She's a partner at Goodby. Bonnie Wan was the one woman that worked on that Saab car pitch. But and the creative director, my boss, took headshots of everyone and put them up in the agency as almost like a war room mentality of getting excited. And it said, "Would you buy a car from these guys?" The big banner in the agency to get us all excited. And it was just a sea of sameness. Every time I passed that wall, I was like, holy shit, am I the only one that's seeing the pattern here? And they didn't win the account, and there was no reflection on, no one even raised that. It was a very true Emperor's New Clothes moment where I was like, the king is naked. But I didn't do anything about it. And so that moment in my head, in that open folder, then in a more present day, seeing the undeniable power of the female consumer. And it was just this tipping point. I just reached a point where I was like, there's such a huge opportunity here, why is no one discussing it? And then it's that slow dawning realization that maybe you are that someone, and no expertise in putting together events or building community, but just wanted to convene a conversation. And we're sitting not far from where the first 3% conference happened here in San Francisco.
It's interesting, the file analogy. I had a similar experience when I was an artist rep in Chicago, which I did for 5 years. I was, at that point, I think, pretty oblivious to the fact that every single client, with no exception, was a white male. Wow. And it wasn't until I went into academia and I started to dig into that stuff that this folder just went, and I started thinking about it, and it really changed the direction of the work that I do in academia, kind of that awakening of how could I have been so oblivious to this?
Yeah. You don't see it till you see it, and then you can't see anything but it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's really true.